Deep in the heart of Siberia lies one of the greatest mysteries of our planet. Lake Baikal is not just a body of water, but a living time machine that holds the secrets of 25 million years of evolution. Here, in the crystal-clear waters of the deepest lake on Earth, live creatures that exist nowhere else in the universe. Today, we will embark on an exciting journey into the underwater world of Lake Baikal, where every meter of depth reveals new wonders of nature. If you are amazed by the mysteries of Lake Baikal's depths, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. And in the comments, let's discuss an intriguing question. Can Lake Baikal's isolated ecosystem help us understand how life began on other planets? Share your opinion. In the heart of Siberia, like a jewel in the crown of wild nature, lies Lake Baikal, one of the greatest wonders of our planet. This body of water is not just a lake. It is an entire universe hidden beneath the surface of crystal-clear waters. Imagine, 20% of all the fresh water on Earth is concentrated in one place, in a basin that holds millions of years of secrets. Baikal is impressive in its scale. It is 636 kilometers long and 79 kilometers wide at its widest point. But the true magic of Lake Baikal lies in its depths. The maximum depth of the lake reaches 1,642 meters, making it the deepest lake on the planet. If we could place Lake Baikal vertically, its depth would exceed the height of 4 Empire State Buildings stacked on top of each other. Local residents have long referred to Lake Baikal as a sea, and this is no coincidence. The lake is so large that it is impossible to see the opposite shore from one side. The Buryats revere Lake Baikal as a sacred place, calling it Baikal Dalai, the rich lake. In their legends, Lake Baikal is the home of spirits and a place of power, where nature has retained its primeval power. But Lake Baikal is not only amazing for its size. This lake is a living museum of evolution, where nature has conducted a unique experiment lasting 25 million years. During this time, species of animals and plants that are found nowhere else on Earth have developed in the isolated ecosystem of Lake Baikal. More than 2,000 species live exclusively in the waters of Lake Baikal, turning the lake into a real treasure trove of biological diversity. Scientists call Lake Baikal the Galapagos of Russia. Just as the islands in the Pacific Ocean inspired Charles Darwin to create his theory of evolution, Lake Baikal continues to surprise researchers with new discoveries. Every dive into its depths brings sensations, new species, unexpected life forms, amazing adaptations to extreme conditions. In winter, Lake Baikal turns into a fairy tale world. Ice up to 2 meters thick covers the lake, creating amazing ice sculptures. But even under the ice, life does not stop. The unique ecosystem continues to function, adapting to the harsh conditions of the Siberian winter. The underwater life of Lake Baikal is a separate story, full of incredible adaptations and survival in conditions that seem impossible for existence. Modern technology allows us to glimpse the secrets of the depths of Lake Baikal. Underwater vehicles equipped with high-resolution cameras dive where no human has ever set foot. They reveal a world that seems alien to us, a world where sponges form underwater forests, where transparent crustaceans the size of a pinhead live but play a key role in the ecosystem. Baikal is not just a body of water. It is a chronicle of the Earth recorded in water and stone. Each layer of bottom sediments tells us about the climatic changes of the past, about how the nature of Siberia has changed over millions of years. By studying Baikal, we study the history of our planet and understand the processes that shaped the modern world. The history of Lake Baikal begins in the distant past, when our planet looked completely different. 25 million years ago, powerful tectonic processes in the Earth's crust formed a huge crack, or rift, which became the cradle of the future lake. This geological cataclysm created a unique structure that continues to expand today, making Lake Baikal one of the most active rift formations on Earth. The Baikal Rift is not just a crack in the ground. It is a complex system of faults that stretches for more than 2,000 kilometers. Imagine a giant lightning bolt frozen in stone and extending dozens of kilometers deep into the Earth. This crack divides the Earth's crust into two parts, which are slowly but steadily moving apart. Every year, Lake Baikal widens by about 2 centimeters, a process that seems imperceptible on a human timescale, but in geological terms is happening at a dizzying speed. The formation of the Baikal Basin took place in several stages. First, tectonic forces created the initial depression, which was gradually filled with water from numerous rivers and streams. Over time, the basin deepened and widened, while climatic changes alternately drained and refilled the ancient reservoir. These cycles of rising and falling water levels left their mark on the geological layers, which scientists today study as pages of a stone chronicle. The bottom sediments of Lake Baikal contain unique information about the climatic history not only of Siberia, but of the entire planet. Layers of sediment accumulated over millennia have created an archive several kilometers thick. Each layer is an imprint of a specific period, telling us about the temperature, amount of precipitation, composition of the atmosphere, and even cosmic catastrophes that affected the Earth's climate. A distinctive feature of the Baikal Basin is its asymmetrical shape. The western shore is steep and mountainous, while the eastern shore is more gentle. This is due to the nature of tectonic processes. The western part of the basin is sinking faster, creating a sharp difference in elevation. The mountains surrounding Lake Baikal also continue to grow, rising by several millimeters per year. This process creates a unique landscape where alpine heights coexist with the deepest depressions. Volcanic activity also played an important role in the formation of the Baikal region. Although there are no active volcanoes in the immediate vicinity of the lake today, traces of ancient volcanic activity can be found everywhere. Lava flows that solidified millions of years ago formed part of the coastline, and volcanic ash became part of the bottom sediments, adding unique mineral components to the waters of Lake Baikal. Glacial periods have left an indelible mark on the history of Lake Baikal. Huge glaciers, which repeatedly advanced and retreated, radically changed the water level in the lake and formed its modern coastline. During maximum glaciation, the level of Lake Baikal could have been hundreds of meters lower than today, exposing vast areas of the bottom and creating conditions for the formation of new ecosystems. Surprisingly, Baikal continues to rejuvenate in a geological sense. Unlike most lakes, which become shallower and overgrown over time, Baikal is becoming deeper. Tectonic processes are lowering the bottom of the lake faster than it can be filled with sediment. This means that Baikal will not only retain its unique properties in the foreseeable future, but may become an even more extreme environment for life. Descending into the depths of Baikal is like traveling to another world. With every meter of descent conditions change dramatically, creating unique ecological niches, each inhabited by amazing creatures. The first tens of meters are a world of light, where the sun's rays penetrate the crystal-clear water, creating a play of light and shadow on the bottom. Here, in the coastal zone, the most active life of the lake is in full swing. At a depth of up to 200 meters is the epilimnion, the upper layer of water, where the temperature in summer can reach plus 20 degrees. This is where most of the inhabitants of Lake Baikal visible to the naked eye live. Schools of omul, bullheads, and Baikal tulka. The sunlight is still intense enough for photosynthesis, which is why algae and higher aquatic plants, which form the basis of the food chain, develop in this zone. Deeper down begins the metalimnion, a transitional layer where the temperature drops sharply. This thermocline creates a natural barrier separating the surface and deep waters. At a depth of 300 to 400 meters, the temperature stabilizes at plus 3 to 4 degrees and remains virtually unchanged to the bottom. This temperature stratification creates unique conditions for endemic species to thrive. The hypolimnion, the deep zone of Lake Baikal, is a world of eternal cold and darkness. Here, at depths of over 400 meters, sunlight never penetrates. The water temperature remains constant at around plus 3.5 degrees, creating stable conditions that have not changed for millions of years. It is this stability that has allowed unique life forms, adapted to extreme conditions, to develop. The pressure in the depths of Lake Baikal reaches enormous values. At a maximum depth of 1,642 meters, the pressure is more than 160 atmospheres. For comparison, this pressure is comparable to that experienced by a submarine at a depth of 1.5 kilometers in the ocean. However, Baikal's endemic species not only survive in such conditions, but also thrive, demonstrating amazing adaptations to life under tremendous pressure. Baikal's oxygen regime is unique among the world's deep lakes. In most deep-water reservoirs, the bottom layers of water are depleted of oxygen or completely devoid of it. Baikal, on the other hand, is saturated with oxygen from the surface to the bottom thanks to its unique water circulation system. Spring and autumn convection currents mix the water column, enriching the depths with oxygen and creating conditions for aerobic organisms to live at any depth. The underwater relief of Lake Baikal is striking in its diversity. There are underwater ridges, canyons, plains, and even mountains rising hundreds of meters from the depths. The academic ridge, stretching across the entire lake, divides it into two main basins, south and north. This underwater mountain range creates different hydrological conditions in different parts of the lake, affecting the distribution of life. The bottom of Lake Baikal is covered with various types of sediments. Sandy and rocky soils predominate in coastal areas, inhabited by rich bottom fauna. The deep water plains are covered with muddy sediments, which are home to unique communities of worms, crustaceans, and other invertebrates. These sediments contain organic matter that serves as food for the deep water ecosystem. Hydrothermal vents discovered at the bottom of Lake Baikal create oases of life in the depths of the lake. Warm water saturated with minerals rises from the bowels of the earth, creating unique microenvironments. Special communities of organisms form around these sources, many of which use chemosynthesis instead of photosynthesis to obtain energy. The water of Lake Baikal is so clear that at a depth of 40 meters, you can see details on the bottom the size of a coin. This incredible transparency is not just an aesthetic wonder of nature, but the result of complex physical, chemical, and biological processes that have been taking place in the lake for millions of years. Visibility in Lake Baikal's waters is dozens of times higher than in most other bodies of water on the planet, sometimes reaching 60 meters in winter. The secret of Baikal's crystal clarity lies in the unique composition of its water. The total mineralization is only about 100 milligrams per liter, which makes Baikal water practically distilled. It contains a minimal amount of dissolved salts and organic substances that could reduce transparency. In terms of its chemical composition, Baikal water is similar to melted glacial water, but it is saturated with oxygen and has a slightly alkaline reaction. The main ions in Baikal water are calcium and magnesium hydrocarbonates, which give it special properties. The concentration of calcium is about 15 milligrams per liter, and magnesium is about 3 milligrams per liter. These elements enter the lake as a result of weathering of the rocks in the catchment area. Interestingly, the ratio of the main ions in Baikal water has remained stable for many thousands of years. Silicon plays a special role in the Baikal ecosystem. Its concentration in the water is about 3 milligrams per liter, which creates ideal conditions for the development of diatom algae. These microscopic organisms build their shells from silicon dioxide, creating structures of amazing beauty. After the diatoms die, their silicon skeletons sink to the bottom, forming diatomaceous mud, a unique type of bottom sediment. Phosphorus and nitrogen, key biogenic elements, are found in very low concentrations in Lake Baikal's water. Total phosphorus does not exceed 10 micrograms per liter, and total nitrogen does not exceed 400 micrograms per liter. This oligotrophicity, low concentration of nutrients, is one of the factors that maintain the high transparency of the water. In biogenic-rich water bodies, phytoplankton actively develops, which reduces transparency. The temperature regime of Lake Baikal's water creates unique physical properties. The density of water is highest at a temperature of +4 degrees, which ensures vertical circulation and mixing of water masses. In winter, when the surface waters cool below 4 degrees, they become lighter and remain on the surface, which prevents the lake from freezing to the bottom. Baikal water has amazing bactericidal properties. The content of pathogenic microorganisms in it is extremely low due to natural antibacterial factors. Ultraviolet radiation penetrates deep into the clear water, suppressing the development of pathogenic bacteria. In addition, some planktonic organisms secrete antibiotic substances that maintain the biological purity of the water. Water exchange in Lake Baikal occurs extremely slowly. A complete change of water in the lake takes 380 years. This means that every drop of water spends almost 4 centuries in Lake Baikal before leaving the lake through the Angara River. Such a slow water exchange contributes to the formation of unique chemical and biological properties of the water. The isotopic composition of Baikal water provides information about its origin and age. The ratio of heavy and light isotopes of oxygen and hydrogen indicates that most of the water enters the lake through atmospheric precipitation and surface runoff. Groundwater accounts for a small fraction of the total water balance, but plays an important role in maintaining the chemical composition of the lake. Baikal is a living laboratory of evolution, where unique life forms have developed in isolation over millions of years. More than 2,000 species and subspecies of animals and plants are endemic, meaning they are found exclusively in Lake Baikal and nowhere else on the planet. This accounts for about 80% of the entire Baikal fauna, making Lake Baikal one of the most endemic water bodies in the world. Baikal's endemism is explained by its ancient age, isolation, and stable living conditions. 25 million years ago, when the lake was formed, the ancestors of modern Baikal organisms settled in it. Gradual changes in conditions and prolonged isolation led to these species evolving independently from their closest relatives in other water bodies, acquiring unique features. A distinctive feature of Baikal's evolution is adaptive radiation, a phenomenon in which a single ancestral species gives rise to many specialized forms. A classic example is the family of stone loaches, which includes 29 endemic species in Lake Baikal. These fish have colonized virtually all ecological niches in the lake, from shallow rocky areas to abyssal depths. Gobies demonstrate an amazing variety of shapes and sizes. The largest representative, the yellowfin goby, reaches a length of 35 centimeters and lives at depths of up to 700 meters. The smallest, the variegated goby, does not exceed 7 centimeters in length and prefers coastal waters. Some species have an elongated snake-like body for living in rock crevices, while others have a flattened shape for living on the bottom. Among the endemic invertebrates, amphipods, or side swimmers occupy a special place. Baikal is home to more than 350 species of these crustaceans, which is almost 20% of the world's amphipod fauna. Baikal amphipods have colonized all depths of the lake and demonstrate incredible morphological diversity. Some species reach a size of 9 centimeters, making them giants among freshwater amphipods. Baikal planarian worms are represented by 40 endemic species, many of which live at great depths. These flatworms have developed unique adaptations to life in cold, high-pressure water. Some species reach a length of 20 centimeters and have bright colors, which is unusual for deep-sea organisms. Baikal sponges form underwater forests at depths of 10 to 1,300 meters. 3 endemic species of sponges, Baikal, Beautiful, and Intermediate, create unique biocenosis. These ancient multicellular organisms act as biofilters, cleaning the water of suspended particles and bacteria. One large sponge can filter up to 1,000 liters of water per day. Among the microscopic endemics, rotifers deserve special attention. Lake Baikal is home to over 40 endemic species of these tiny multicellular animals. They are less than a millimeter in size, but their role in the ecosystem is enormous. Rotifers are an important link in the food chain, feeding on bacteria and single-celled algae and serving as food for larger organisms. Baikal turbellarians, free-living flatworms, are represented by 80 endemic species. These small predators live both in the water column and in bottom sediments. Some species have developed a unique ability to bioluminesce, creating real light shows in the depths of Lake Baikal. There are about 80 species of endemic mollusks in Lake Baikal. Most of them are small gastropods adapted to life in cold water with low calcium content. Their shells often have unusual shapes and sculptures, making Baikal mollusks easily recognizable. Among all the wonders of Lake Baikal, the Baikal seal occupies a special place as the largest endemic species of the lake and the only freshwater seal in Russia. This amazing animal, whose scientific name is Pusa sibirica, is a living mystery of evolution. How did a marine mammal end up in a freshwater lake, thousands of kilometers away from the nearest sea? This mystery still baffles scientists. An adult Baikal seal reaches a length of 120 to 124 centimeters and weighs up to 70 kilograms. Females are usually larger than males, which is rare among pinnipeds. Their streamlined bodies are covered with thick fur that changes color depending on age and season. Young seals have silver fur, while adults have dark gray fur with a lighter belly. This coloration provides ideal camouflage in the waters of Lake Baikal. The Baikal seal is an excellent swimmer and diver. It can dive to a depth of up to 400 meters and hold its breath for 20 to 25 minutes. These abilities allow the seal to hunt in the deep waters of Lake Baikal, where its main food sources live: endemic bullheads and Baikal omul. An adult seal eats up to 3 kilograms of fish per day. The reproduction of the Baikal seal is closely linked to the ice conditions of the lake. Pregnancy lasts 11 months, including a period of latency when embryo development is temporarily suspended. Births occur in March-April in special dens that females dig in the snow above air holes in the ice. These snow caves maintain a constant temperature of around 0 degrees, protecting newborn pups from the harsh Siberian frosts. Seal pups are born covered with thick white fur, lanugo, which provides excellent thermal insulation. A newborn seal pup weighs about 4 kilograms and reaches a length of 70 centimeters. The pup spends the first 6 to 7 weeks of its life in a snow den, feeding exclusively on its mother's milk, which has a fat content of up to 40%. The Baikal seal population is estimated at 130,000 to 140,000 individuals, making it one of the largest populations of pinnipeds in the world. Seals are evenly distributed throughout the lake, but prefer deep water areas. In winter, they concentrate in ice-free areas or maintain breathing holes in the ice. The Baikal seal's senses are perfectly adapted to underwater hunting. Large, dark eyes provide excellent vision in low-light conditions at depth. Long vibrissae, tactile hairs on the muzzle, allow them to detect the movement of water from passing fish, even in complete darkness. The seal's hearing is extremely sensitive, and it can pick up sounds across a wide range of frequencies. The Baikal seal plays an important role in the lake's ecosystem as the top predator. It controls fish populations and participates in the cycle of substances, transferring nutrients from the deep water zone to the surface and coastal areas. Seal excrement enriches Lake Baikal's waters with phosphorus and nitrogen, stimulating the growth of plankton. The origin of the Baikal seal remains a subject of scientific debate. The most likely hypothesis suggests that the ancestors of the seal entered Lake Baikal from the Arctic Ocean through a system of rivers during one of the ice ages. Genetic studies show a close relationship between the Baikal seal and the Arctic ringed seal, from which it separated about 4 million years ago. Adaptation to the freshwater environment required serious physiological changes from the seal: salt metabolism, water balance, kidney function. All of this had to be rebuilt for life in fresh water. The Baikal seal learned to get all the salt it needed from food, which affected its feeding behavior and preferences. The Baikal omul is the pearl of the lake's ichthyofauna and one of the most famous endemic species of Lake Baikal. This noble fish of the salmon family has become a symbol of the lake, on a par with the Baikal seal. Coregonus migratorius, as scientists call omul, is a unique example of an Arctic species adapting to the conditions of an ancient lake. The ancestors of omul entered Lake Baikal during the Ice Age and, over millions of years of evolution, turned into a completely unique species. 4 populations of omul have formed in Lake Baikal, each with its own characteristics. The Selenga population is the largest, with individuals reaching a length of 50 centimeters and a weight of 1.5 kilograms. The Chivirkuiski population is distinguished by a shorter and taller body. The North Baikal omul has elongated body proportions, while the Posolsky omul has intermediate characteristics. Each population spawns in specific tributaries of Lake Baikal, which maintains their genetic isolation. The omul's life cycle is closely linked to seasonal changes in the lake. The omul spends most of its life in the open waters of Lake Baikal, feeding on zooplankton. Episura baikalensis, an endemic copepod, makes up to 80% of the omul's diet. This microscopic crustacean, only 1.5 millimeters in size, is a key link in the lake's food chain. The spawning migration of omul is one of the most impressive natural phenomena in Lake Baikal. In late August and early September, huge schools of omul rush to the mouths of rivers. Thousands of fish swim upstream along the Selenga, Barguzin, and Upper Angara rivers for up to 150 kilometers. Spawning takes place on rocky and pebbly soils at a water temperature of 2 to 4 degrees Celsius. Female omul lay between 7 and 30,000 eggs with a diameter of 2 to 3 millimeters. The eggs develop under the ice during the winter, and in the spring, larvae about 1 centimeter long emerge from them. The young fish roll into the lake and initially stay in the coastal zone, feeding on small plankton. Omul reaches sexual maturity at the age of 7 to 8 years. In addition to omul, the ichthyofauna of Lake Baikal includes 54 species of fish, 27 of which are endemic. The goby family is represented by 29 species that have colonized all ecological niches of the lake. The deepest dwelling of these, the long-winged, broad-snouted goby, lives at depths of up to 1,500 meters. This species has developed unique adaptations to life under enormous pressure. The Baikal tulka, a small silvery fish up to 12 centimeters long, plays an important role in the lake's ecosystem. Huge schools of tulka serve as a food source for omul, seals, and other predators. This fish makes daily vertical migrations, rising to the surface at night to feed on plankton and descending to the depths during the day. The davachan, an endemic Baikal whitefish, lives exclusively in the northern part of the lake. This large fish can reach a weight of up to 5 kilograms and a length of 70 centimeters. Davachan leads a bottom-dwelling lifestyle, feeding on bottom invertebrates. Its population is small and is protected as a rare species. Baikal grayling differs from its river relatives in its larger size and dark coloration. This beautiful fish with a large dorsal fin prefers rocky coastal areas with good currents. Grayling is an active predator that hunts small fish, crustaceans, and insect larvae. Baikal burbot is the only representative of the cod family in the fresh waters of Russia. This cold-loving fish is nocturnal, hunting at the bottom of the lake. The burbot can reach a length of 1 meter 20 centimeters and a weight of 10 kilograms. Its liver is rich in vitamin A and has long been valued by locals as a remedy. The Baikal roach differs from the common roach in its larger size and ecological characteristics. It forms local shoals in the bays and inlets of Lake Baikal, where it finds optimal conditions for feeding and reproduction. The roach is an important target for recreational fishing. Hidden in the crystal-clear waters of Lake Baikal is a world invisible to the naked eye, the world of plankton, which is the basis of the entire lake ecosystem. These microscopic organisms, which are no more than a few millimeters in size, play a key role in the functioning of the Baikal ecosystem. The well-being of all other inhabitants of the lake, from the smallest fish to the Baikal seal, depends on their numbers and species composition. Baikal's phytoplankton consists mainly of diatom algae, which form the basis of the lake's primary production. These single-celled organisms are enclosed in stunningly beautiful silicon shells, which resemble works of art under a microscope. Baikal is home to more than 200 species of diatoms, many of which are endemic. After they die, their silicon shells sink to the bottom, forming diatomaceous mud hundreds of meters thick. Cyclotella baicalensis, or Baikal cyclotella, is the dominant species of diatom in the open waters of the lake. These microscopic algae, measuring only 10 to 20 micrometers in size, are capable of rapid reproduction under favorable conditions. In spring, when the ice melts and a lot of light enters the water, Cyclotella forms massive blooms, turning the water greenish. Baikal zooplankton is unique in its high degree of endemism. More than 90% of zooplankton species are found only in Baikal. The main role in plankton communities is played by Episcura baicalensis, an endemic copepod that accounts for up to 80% of the zooplankton biomass. This tiny crustacean, 1.5 millimeters long, is the true sanitary worker of the lake. Episcura has a unique ability to filter water with incredible efficiency. One crustacean can filter up to 30 milliliters of water per day, trapping bacteria, small algae, and organic particles. Considering that the number of Episcura in Lake Baikal reaches 3 million individuals per cubic meter of water, the total filtration activity of the entire population is mind-boggling. Over the course of a year, Episcura filters the entire volume of Lake Baikal's waters several times. The life cycle of Episcura is closely linked to seasonal changes in the lake. In winter, under the ice, the crustaceans are dormant at great depths. With the onset of spring, they rise to the surface and begin to actively reproduce. A female Episcura can lay up to 100 eggs in her lifetime, from which larvae or nauplii develop. The full development cycle from egg to adult takes about a month. Macrohectopus is another endemic representative of Baikal zooplankton. This large copepod, up to 4 millimeters long, lives mainly in the deep water zone of the lake. Unlike Episcura, Macrohectopus is a predator that hunts smaller planktonic organisms. Its population plays an important role in regulating the abundance of other zooplankton species. Baikal rotifers are represented by more than 40 endemic species. These tiny multicellular animals, ranging in size from a few tens of micrometers to 1 millimeter, play an important role in the transformation of organic matter. Rotifers feed on bacteria, detritus, and small algae, converting them into easily digestible forms for other organisms. Planktothrix baicalensis, an endemic blue-green algae, forms thin filaments up to several millimeters long. This algae is capable of nitrogen fixation, i.e., it can absorb atmospheric nitrogen and convert it into organic compounds. This ability is especially important in the oligotrophic waters of Lake Baikal, where the concentration of biogenic elements is extremely low. The seasonal dynamics of plankton determine the rhythms of life throughout Lake Baikal. In winter, when the lake is covered with ice, plankton communities are dormant. Photosynthesis practically ceases due to the lack of light, and zooplankton descends into the deeper layers, where the temperature is more stable. The spring bloom of phytoplankton marks the beginning of a new biological year in the lake. A unique feature of Baikal plankton is its ability to migrate vertically. Many species of zooplankton make daily vertical journeys, rising to the surface at night to feed and sinking to the depths during the day to escape predators and bright light. These migrations create powerful biomass flows between the different layers of the lake. There are more than 100 species of infusoria in Lake Baikal, half of which are endemic. These single-celled organisms, ranging in size from tens to hundreds of micrometers, play an important role in the microbial loop, a system for transforming dissolved organic matter. Some Baikal ciliates have developed symbiotic relationships with algae, allowing them to survive in conditions of low food concentration. Baikal's planktonic protozoa demonstrate an amazing variety of forms and feeding habits. Among them are photosynthetic organisms that use solar energy, predators that hunt other microorganisms, and mixotrophs that combine photosynthesis with food capture. This diversity of strategies allows planktonic communities to efficiently use all available resources of the lake. At depths ranging from 10 to 1,300 meters, Lake Baikal hides one of its most amazing secrets: underwater forests formed by giant sponges. These ancient multicellular organisms create unique biosyntheses that have no analogues in the world. Baikal sponges reach truly impressive sizes. Some specimens exceed 1.5 meters in height and can weigh up to 10 kilograms. 3 species of endemic sponges inhabit the depths of Lake Baikal. Lubomirskia baikalensis, the Baikal sponge, is the largest and most widespread. Its branched colonies resemble underwater trees or coral reefs. Baikalospongea bacillifera, the beautiful sponge, forms elegant cup-shaped structures up to 80 centimeters in diameter. Baikalospongea intermedia, the intermediate sponge, has a crust-like shape and covers stones and rocks with a dense carpet. The age of individual colonies of Baikal sponges can reach 150 years. These slow-growing organisms grow only a few centimeters per year, but thanks to their longevity, they form massive structures. Their skeleton consists of silicon spicules, microscopic needles that create a strong support system. A unique feature of Baikal sponges is the presence of green symbiotic algae in their tissues. The symbiosis of sponges with single-celled algae is a unique phenomenon for freshwater ecosystems. Algae of the genus Chlorella live in the cells of sponges, receiving protection and minerals, and in return supply their host with the products of photosynthesis. This symbiosis is especially important in the oligotrophic waters of Lake Baikal, where the concentration of nutrients is extremely low. Thanks to symbiotic algae, sponges can exist in conditions of minimal external organic input. The filtration activity of Baikal sponges plays a key role in purifying lake waters. One large sponge can filter up to 1,000 liters of water per day, removing bacteria, organic particles, and even viruses. The system of channels and chambers inside the sponge creates a powerful water current that sucks microorganisms through the smallest pores and expels purified water through large openings called oscula. Sponge forests serve as habitats for many other organisms. Various species of amphipods, worms, mollusks, and other invertebrates settle in the branches of sponges. These communities create complex food webs, where each species occupies its own ecological niche. Some organisms spend their entire lives among sponges, while others use them as temporary shelter or feeding grounds. Baikal sponges reproduce both sexually and asexually. In summer, sponges form special buds called gemmules, which can survive unfavorable conditions and give rise to new colonies. Sexual reproduction occurs in the fall, when male and female gametes are released into the water. Fertilization occurs in the water column, and the developing larvae settle on solid substrates and begin to form new colonies. Sponge forests play an important role in stabilizing bottom sediments. Their powerful root system and branched structures prevent the bottom from being eroded by currents and waves. This is especially important on the steep slopes of the Baikal Basin, where sponges act as natural dams, preventing underwater landslides and preserving the structure of the bottom landscape. The chemical composition of Baikal sponges is unique in its high content of biologically active substances. Sponges synthesize various metabolites that protect them from bacterial infections and predators. Some of these compounds exhibit antibiotic activity and may have medical applications. Research into the biochemistry of Baikal sponges opens up new perspectives for biotechnology and pharmacology. The ecological role of sponge forests goes far beyond simple water filtration. They participate in the silicon cycle, concentrating it from the water and returning it to the ecosystem after death. Sponges influence the distribution of oxygen in the bottom layers of water and serve as indicators of the ecological state of the lake. Changes in the development of sponge communities can signal disturbances in the Baikal ecosystem. In the depths of Lake Baikal, there is an invisible world of microorganisms that plays a fundamental role in the functioning of the entire lake ecosystem. The bacterial communities of Lake Baikal are unique in their species composition, adaptations to extreme conditions, and important ecological functions. At depths of over 1,000 meters, where the pressure exceeds 100 atmospheres and the temperature does not rise above 4 degrees, amazing microbial communities thrive. The number of bacteria in Lake Baikal's waters varies from 100,000 to 10 million cells per milliliter of water, depending on depth and season. In surface waters, the concentration of bacteria is higher due to the influx of organic matter from phytoplankton. In deep waters, the number of bacteria decreases, but their role in the ecosystem increases due to special living conditions and unique metabolic pathways. Psychrophilic bacteria in Lake Baikal are adapted to life at low temperatures. Their enzymes remain active at temperatures close to zero, which allows them to maintain metabolism in conditions where most organisms are inactive. These microorganisms synthesize special antifreeze proteins that prevent the formation of ice crystals in cells and protect cell structures from damage. Barotolerant bacteria in the depths of Lake Baikal withstand enormous pressure thanks to special adaptations of their cell membranes and proteins. Their membranes contain an increased amount of unsaturated fatty acids, which maintain fluidity under high pressure. The proteins of these bacteria have a special spatial structure that does not deform under the influence of hundreds of atmospheres. Chemosynthetic bacteria use chemical energy instead of sunlight to synthesize organic substances. In the eternal darkness of the depths of Lake Baikal, these organisms oxidize hydrogen sulfide, methane, ammonia, and other chemical compounds, obtaining energy for their vital functions. They form the basis of food chains in those areas of the bottom where there is no supply of organic matter from the surface. Nitrifying bacteria play a key role in Lake Baikal's nitrogen cycle. They oxidize ammonia to nitrites and then to nitrates, making nitrogen available to other organisms. In the oligotrophic waters of Lake Baikal, where the concentration of biogenic elements is extremely low, The activity of these bacteria is crucial for maintaining the productivity of the ecosystem. Sulfate-reducing bacteria in the bottom sediments of Lake Baikal reduce sulfates to hydrogen sulfide, participating in the sulfur cycle. These anaerobic organisms decompose organic matter in the absence of oxygen, forming characteristic black layers in deep sediments. Their activity influences the chemical composition of pore water and mineral formation processes in bottom sediments. Methanotrophic bacteria consume methane, which is formed in the anaerobic layers of bottom sediments. They prevent this greenhouse gas from entering the atmosphere, performing an important ecological function. Baikal methanotrophs are adapted to low methane concentrations and are able to utilize it efficiently even with minimal supply. Baikal iron bacteria participate in iron and manganese cycles, precipitating these metals from water and forming characteristic concretions at the bottom of the lake. These microorganisms can use iron as an energy source or as an electron acceptor in the respiration process. Their activity leads to the formation of iron-manganese crusts on underwater rocks and stones. Symbiotic bacteria live in the tissues of various Baikal organisms, providing their hosts with the necessary substances. Sponges are home to bacteria capable of fixing atmospheric nitrogen, which is especially important in the nitrogen-limited waters of Lake Baikal. The intestines of some endemic crustaceans are home to bacteria that help digest cellulose and other complex organic compounds. The extremophile archaea of Lake Baikal are of particular interest to science. These ancient microorganisms live in the harshest conditions of the lake, in hydrothermal springs, highly mineralized waters, and other extreme environments. Studying them helps us understand the origin of life on Earth and the possibility of life existing in the extreme conditions of other planets. Hidden in the depths of Lake Baikal are unique formations, underwater hydrothermal vents that create oases of life in the cold depths of the lake. These vents, discovered by scientists at the end of the 20th century, have become one of the most sensational discoveries in the study of the Baikal ecosystem. Warm water, saturated with minerals, rises from the bowels of the Earth, creating unique micro-ecosystems that are radically different from the surrounding cold waters. The water temperature in the area of underwater springs can reach 50 degrees, which is 12 times higher than the temperature of the surrounding deep waters. This thermal anomaly creates local areas with a special microclimate, where unique communities of thermophilic organisms form. The springs are located at depths of 400 to 1,500 meters and are associated with the tectonic activity of the Baikal Rift. The chemical composition of the water in hydrothermal springs is radically different from that of ordinary Baikal water. It is saturated with hydrogen sulfide, methane, carbon dioxide, and various metals: iron, manganese, copper, and zinc. The concentration of dissolved substances in thermal waters is dozens of times higher than normal for Lake Baikal. This chemical environment creates conditions for the development of chemosynthetic organisms. Bacterial mats around underwater springs form brightly colored formations ranging from white and yellow to orange and red. These microbial communities use the chemical energy of hydrogen sulfide and methane to synthesize organic substances. They form the basis of food chains in the area around the springs, supporting the life of numerous invertebrates. The unique fauna of thermal springs includes several endemic species adapted to life in conditions of elevated temperature and specific chemical composition of water. Among them, thermophilic oligochaetes, worms that live exclusively in the vicinity of the springs, are of particular interest. These organisms can withstand temperatures that would be lethal to most Baikal species. Gastropods, or gastropod mollusks of thermal springs, have developed special adaptations to life in an aggressive chemical environment. Their shells have thickened walls that protect them from acidic waters saturated with hydrogen sulfide. Some species of these mollusks feed on bacterial mats, obtaining energy indirectly from chemosynthesis. Mineral formation in the area of hydrothermal vents leads to the formation of unique geological structures. Minerals precipitating from hot waters create carbonate structures, iron-manganese concretions, and sulfide formations. These mineral structures serve as a substrate for the colonization of various organisms and create a complex underwater landscape. Seasonal variability in the activity of the springs is associated with tectonic processes and changes in underground hydrology. The intensity of thermal water outflow can vary from almost complete cessation to powerful emissions that affect the temperature regime and chemical composition of the surrounding waters. These fluctuations create an additional selective load on the organisms inhabiting this area. The study of Baikal's underwater springs is important for understanding global geochemical processes. Baikal springs are continental analogs of oceanic hydrothermal vents, but in a freshwater environment. This allows us to study processes that may have occurred in the early stages of life's evolution on Earth, when the oceans were less salty. Microbiological studies of thermal springs open up new perspectives for biotechnology. Thermophilic bacteria and archaea inhabiting the springs synthesize unique enzymes that remain active at high temperatures. These biocatalysts can be used in industry, medicine, and scientific research. The ecological role of underwater springs goes far beyond local ecosystems. They influence the hydrochemical regime of large areas of the Baikal bottom, participate in global carbon and sulfur cycles, and serve as sources of biogenic elements for surrounding areas. Studying these springs helps us understand the links between geological processes and the biological diversity of Lake Baikal. Despite its remoteness and apparent inaccessibility, Lake Baikal faces serious environmental threats that could irreversibly alter the unique ecosystem of this ancient lake. Climate change, anthropogenic pollution, invasive species, and increasing recreational pressure create a complex set of challenges that require immediate scientific analysis and conservation measures. Global warming has a noticeable impact on the thermal regime of Lake Baikal. Over the past 50 years, the average water temperature in the lake has risen by 1 to 1.5 degrees, which may seem insignificant, but for the stable ecosystem of Lake Baikal, this is a significant change. The duration of ice cover is decreasing. The ice forms 2 weeks later and melts a week earlier than it did half a century ago. The change in the ice regime disrupts the reproductive cycle of the Baikal seal, which gives birth to its young in snow dens above holes in the ice. Early melting and late formation of ice shorten the period available for reproduction, which could lead to a decline in the population. In addition, changes in ice cover affect water mixing processes and the oxygen regime of the lake. Warming water stimulates the development of algae species that are not typical for Lake Baikal. Spirogyra, a filamentous green algae, forms extensive clusters in coastal waters, creating green carpets on the lake bottom. These algae mats decompose, consuming oxygen and releasing toxic substances, which disrupts traditional food chains and can lead to the death of bottom-dwelling organisms. Atmospheric pollution leads to the entry of pollutants into Lake Baikal, with rainwater and meltwater. Concentrations of heavy metals, pesticides, and other toxic compounds in Lake Baikal's water remain low, but their gradual accumulation in bottom sediments may pose a long-term threat to the ecosystem. The discovery of microplastics in samples of Lake Baikal water is particularly alarming. Industrial enterprises on the shores of Lake Baikal and in its catchment area remain potential sources of pollution. The Baikal Pulp and Paper Mill, which operated on the southern shore of the lake for more than 40 years, left behind millions of tons of contaminated sediments containing lignin and other toxic substances. The reclamation of these areas will require decades of work and enormous financial costs. The tourist load on the shores of Lake Baikal is growing every year. Millions of tourists visit the lake annually, creating an excessive load on fragile coastal ecosystems. Unorganized tourism leads to trampling of vegetation, pollution of the shores with household waste, and disruption of animal habitats. Forest fires, often caused by the carelessness of tourists, destroy unique relict forests. Poaching remains a serious problem for Baikal's fauna. Illegal fishing of omul undermines the populations of this endemic fish, especially during spawning migrations. Illegal hunting of Baikal seals continues despite strict prohibitions. The collection of endemic sponges for the souvenir trade damages unique bottom communities. Invasive species pose a particular threat to the isolated ecosystem of Lake Baikal. Canadian waterweed, an aquatic plant that entered the lake with ballast water from ships, is actively spreading in coastal areas, displacing native species. Rotan golovoshka, which entered the tributaries of Lake Baikal from the European part of Russia, can penetrate the lake itself and disrupt established food chains. The construction of hydraulic structures on the tributaries of Lake Baikal disrupts the natural hydrological regime of the lake. Dams hinder fish migration, alter water temperature, and disrupt sediment supply. The cascade of hydroelectric power plants on the Angara River has turned this river into a series of reservoirs, which has radically changed the living conditions of the unique Angara fish populations. Changes in the Baikal catchment basin affect the inflow of nutrients and pollutants into the lake. Deforestation increases surface runoff and soil erosion, leading to additional amounts of biogenic elements entering the lake. This can disrupt the oligotrophic status of Lake Baikal and stimulate eutrophication, the process of enriching the water with nutrients. The history of Lake Baikal research spans more than 3 centuries and is full of dramatic discoveries, daring expeditions, and scientific breakthroughs. Each dive into the depths of Lake Baikal brings new sensations, forcing scientists to rethink their ideas about the possibilities of life on Earth. Modern technologies open up unprecedented opportunities for researchers to study the most intimate secrets of the ancient lake. The first scientific studies of Lake Baikal began in the 18th century with the expedition of Daniel Messerschmitt, a German naturalist in Russian service. In 1723, he compiled the first scientific description of the lake and collected samples of Baikal's flora and fauna. His work laid the foundations for the scientific study of the lake's unique ecosystem, and first drew the attention of European scientists to the Siberian phenomenon. Academic expeditions in the 19th century, led by Ivan Georgi, Peter Pallas, and other prominent naturalists, systematized knowledge about Lake Baikal. They described the main species of Baikal fauna, studied the hydrological regime of the lake, and for the first time put forward hypotheses about its ancient origin. Benedict Dubowski's expedition in the 1880s discovered the phenomenon of Baikal endemism. Deep-sea research in the 20th century revolutionized the study of Lake Baikal. In 1977, Soviet researchers used manned submersibles for the first time to study Lake Baikal. The deep-sea vehicles PISES allowed scientists to see life at the maximum depths of the lake with their own eyes and make discoveries that overturned ideas about the Baikal ecosystem. The discovery of underwater hydrothermal vents in 1991 became a worldwide sensation. Russian scientists, using the Mir deep-sea vehicles, discovered hot springs at the bottom of Lake Baikal, around which life thrived, based not on photosynthesis, but on chemosynthesis. This discovery forced a rethinking of ideas about the distribution of life in deep-water freshwater ecosystems. Modern underwater research uses the most advanced technologies. Autonomous underwater vehicles equipped with high-resolution cameras, multi-beam echo sounders, and manipulators for collecting samples allow for detailed mapping of the lake bottom and the study of the behavior of deep-water organisms in their natural environment. Remotely operated vehicles operate at depths of up to 1,500 meters, transmitting high-quality video images to the surface. Molecular genetic studies of Baikal fauna have opened new horizons in understanding evolutionary processes. Sequencing the DNA of endemic species has made it possible to reconstruct their phylogenetic relationships and determine the time of divergence from their closest relatives. It turns out that many Baikal endemics have a much more ancient history than previously thought. Paleoclimatic studies of Lake Baikal's bottom sediments have turned the lake into a unique climatic chronicle. A continuous sediment column extracted from the deepest part of the lake covers a period of 5 million years and contains detailed information about climatic changes in Central Asia. Analysis of pollen, diatoms, and isotopic composition allows us to reconstruct past temperatures, precipitation, and atmospheric composition. Hydrobiological stations on the shores of Lake Baikal continuously monitor the state of the lake's ecosystem. The Limnological Institute of the Siberian branch of the Russian Academy of Sciences in Listvianka has become a global center for Baikal studies. Leading experts in the study of freshwater ecosystems work here. New research methods are developed, and highly qualified personnel are trained. International research programs have brought together scientists from different countries to study Lake Baikal. Joint Russian-American, Russian-Japanese, and Russian-German expeditions have made it possible to apply the latest technologies and research methods. The program of deep drilling of Lake Baikal's bottom sediments has become an example of successful international cooperation in the field of earth sciences. Space research of Lake Baikal using remote sensing satellites has made it possible to study the lake as a single system. Satellite images show water circulation, plankton distribution, ice conditions, and other characteristics of the lake in real time. This data is indispensable for understanding large-scale processes in the Baikal ecosystem. Baikal is not just a lake, but a UNESCO World Natural Heritage Site, the protection of which is a task of international importance. The unique ecosystem of this ancient lake requires a comprehensive approach to conservation, including scientific research, environmental protection measures, environmental education, and international cooperation. The history of Baikal's protection is full of dramatic twists and turns, scientific breakthroughs, and civic initiatives. The first environmental protection measures on Lake Baikal were taken back in Tsarist times. In 1916, the Barguzinsky Nature Reserve was created, the first state nature reserve in Russia, whose main purpose was to protect the Baikal seal and sable. This reserve marked the beginning of a system of specially protected natural areas in the Baikal region. The Soviet period brought both achievements and serious threats to the Baikal ecosystem. On the one hand, a powerful scientific base for studying the lake was created, and the network of reserves and national parks was expanded. On the other hand, the construction of the Baikal pulp and paper mill in the 1960s became the largest environmental disaster in the history of the lake. The public movement to protect Lake Baikal began in the 1960s and became one of the first environmental movements in the USSR. Writers Valentin Rasputin and Sergei Zeligin, scientists Oleg Gusev and Mikhail Grachev led the fight to preserve this unique lake. Their efforts led to the adoption of special laws on the protection of Lake Baikal and the creation of a comprehensive system of environmental protection measures. The inclusion of Lake Baikal in the UNESCO World Natural Heritage List in 1996 was a recognition of its exceptional value for all of humanity. World Heritage status imposes special obligations to preserve the unique properties of the lake and requires regular reporting to the international community on the state of the Baikal ecosystem. The federal law on the protection of Lake Baikal, adopted in 1999, established a special legal regime for the Baikal Natural Territory. The law identified 3 zones with different nature use regimes: the Central Ecological Zone, the Buffer Ecological Zone, and the Atmospheric Influence Zone. Each zone has its own restrictions on economic activity. The system of specially protected natural areas in the Baikal region includes 3 state natural biosphere reserves: Barguzinsky, Baikalsky, and Baikalolensky. The Pribaikalsky and Zabaikalsky national parks protect the most valuable areas of the lake's coastline. The total area of specially protected areas is more than 8,000 square kilometers. Scientific monitoring of the state of the Baikal ecosystem is carried out continuously using modern technologies. Automatic water quality monitoring stations, satellite observation, and regular biological surveys allow changes in the lake's ecosystem to be tracked. The monitoring data serves as the basis for management decisions on the protection of Lake Baikal. International cooperation in the field of Lake Baikal protection is developing in several directions. Scientific cooperation programs with Japan, the United States, Germany, and other countries promote the use of advanced technologies for studying and protecting the lake. International environmental funds finance projects to clean up Lake Baikal's waters and restore damaged ecosystems. Environmental education plays a key role in shaping a responsible attitude towards Lake Baikal. Museums, visitor centers in nature reserves and national parks, and ecological trails introduce visitors to the unique nature of the lake. Educational programs for school children and students are raising a new generation of defenders of Lake Baikal's nature. Ecotourism is becoming an important tool for protecting Lake Baikal, allowing visitors to experience the lake's unique nature while helping to preserve it. The development of ecotourism infrastructure creates economic incentives for the local population to participate in nature conservation activities. The certification of tourist routes ensures minimal impact on fragile ecosystems. Restoring damaged ecosystems requires long-term efforts and significant financial costs. The reclamation of the former Baikal pulp and paper mill site includes the removal of contaminated sediments and the restoration of soil cover and vegetation. The reintroduction of extinct species and the restoration of fish spawning grounds are priority areas of work. The future of Lake Baikal depends on whether humanity can find a balance between preserving its unique ecosystem and meeting the needs of a developing society. Climate change, technological progress, population growth, and economic development pose new challenges for the ancient lake. At the same time, advances in science, technology, and environmental awareness open up new opportunities for protecting Baikal's natural heritage. Climate change forecasts predict further warming in the Baikal region of 2 to 4 degrees by the end of the 21st century. This will lead to a reduction in the ice period, changes in water temperature, and a transformation of the hydrological cycle. The adaptation of the Baikal ecosystem to new conditions will take time, and some endemic species may not have time to adapt to rapid changes. The development of molecular technologies will open up new opportunities for studying and protecting Baikal's biodiversity. Genetic monitoring of endemic species populations will allow their condition to be tracked at the molecular level and critical changes to be predicted long before they become apparent externally. Gene banks of Baikal organisms will serve as insurance against the loss of unique genetic material. Artificial intelligence and big data are revolutionizing approaches to studying complex ecosystems. Machine learning will help analyze huge amounts of environmental data, identify hidden patterns, and predict changes in the Baikal ecosystem. Digital models of the lake will make it possible to calculate scenarios for future developments and optimize environmental protection measures. Space technology will play an increasingly important role in monitoring Lake Baikal. New generation satellites with improved spatial and temporal resolution will provide continuous observation of the lake's condition. Space laboratories will allow Baikal samples to be studied in microgravity conditions, which may yield new insights into the fundamental processes of life. Biotechnology will open up new ways of using Baikal's resources without harming the ecosystem. Unique enzymes from Baikal microorganisms will find application in medicine, industry, and agriculture. Biomimetic technologies based on the study of Baikal organisms will lead to the creation of new materials and technical solutions. The development of renewable energy sources will reduce the anthropogenic load on the Baikal region. Solar and wind energy, geothermal installations, will provide environmentally friendly energy supply to settlements and enterprises. Hydrogen energy based on the electrolysis of Baikal water may become a promising direction for the development of the region. A closed-loop economy will change approaches to natural resource use in the Baikal region. Waste-free technologies, recycling, and reuse of materials will minimize negative impacts on the environment. The development of a green economy will create new jobs in the field of environmental technologies and sustainable tourism. The education and enlightenment of future generations will determine society's attitude towards Lake Baikal. Modern educational technologies, virtual and augmented reality, interactive museums, online platforms will make knowledge about Lake Baikal accessible to people all over the world. Environmental education will become an integral part of school and university programs. International cooperation in the field of Baikal protection will expand and deepen. Global environmental problems require coordinated action by the world community. Baikal can become a testing ground for new approaches to the protection of unique natural sites and a model for the preservation of other ancient lakes on the planet. Citizen science will allow millions of people to participate in the study and protection of Lake Baikal. Mobile applications for collecting environmental data, online platforms for analyzing satellite images, and volunteer monitoring programs will turn anyone who wants to into a participant in scientific research. Public control over the state of the environment will become more effective and responsive. The future of Lake Baikal is not only about challenges, but also opportunities. The unique ecosystem of this ancient lake can become a source of knowledge about the fundamental processes of life evolution, the adaptation of organisms to extreme conditions, and the resilience of ecosystems to external influences. Preserving Lake Baikal for future generations is an investment in the future of science, technology, and human civilization.